How are we? How are we? Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another deadline stream. It is game week 6. Wildcard is active. Thank you all very much for joining. I hope you are doing well. Before we dive in and do all the usual stuff that we will do during this stream, let's say hello to some of you in the chat. Let me know what you're up to this morning. And good morning to Matt, Varon, Braden, Ewan, Varon, Ian, FPL Vert, Jordan, Kieran. Who else have we got in this morning? Good morning to Fiona. Good morning to Callum. Hello to Matt and all the other members and moderators in this morning. Adrian, hello. Luke, and to everyone else. Saden, Sam, Jacob, Ali, Trusted Mate, Alexander, Chad, Ali, Jacob, Aman, Chris, Simon, Linnen, Neil, Matthew, Ruben, Ricky, Yusuf, Peter, Zam, Luke, Free Will, Jane, FPL Oliver, Mercy Channel, Wolverine, ATY Manchester City Football Club, hello, Gareth, JN, Brian, Alspike, Richard, Ben, Alexander, Diesel, Mr. Roberts Gaming, Anuj, Duncan, Southwick, Jack, Sam, Ilez, Alan, Mena, and Ben Teckers. Good morning to you all. If you are just joining, please do drop a like on the stream. And if you are new to the channel, welcome. Thank you very much for joining. And please do subscribe as well. I do appreciate it. Varon says, Harry, I didn't know you were on bench boost. Look at that stacked bench. Just a disclaimer, Caicedo was in my draft because he was just predicted to go up in price last night, and there was a chance that I wanted him. He didn't end up rising, so it didn't actually make any difference, but he was predicted to rise, so I just put him in for stack in case, because I had the money in the bank to do it. But if he rose, I wouldn't have had the money to afford him at 4.7, so I only had the 0.6. So I put Caicedo in case I decided to go with him, although I'm pretty certain, especially now that he didn't rise, that it's just not... I just don't think I'm probably going to go Caicedo, but that's why he's in my team. I just think the bench, for someone who's already used the bench boost, has got a little bit too much invested in it. I think Anderson, Richards, Caicedo is just too much. I think I'm going to be taking 0.5 out of that bench somewhere. I'm almost certain I won't go Caicedo. It will probably be Elliot Anderson and a 4 million defender, or it will be a Stack and a Richards. And I like Stack and Richards is definitely the most likely. I like going Anderson. I like what Anderson offers. The Forest fixtures coming up are not as good, but that makes him better for Defcon. And I don't know. My only issue with going with Anderson is Ange has the ability to break players quite a lot, and they're in Europe. So are his minutes for him playing 90 every week quite as reliable as maybe as it has been? So am I just safer going with someone? Like, what's the difference in points going to be between Anderson, Xhaka, Stack? Like, is there going to be that much between them? Maybe Anderson will outscore them by a little bit, but I'm not going to play him most weeks. So that's kind of where we're at. That's basically the last transfer we've got. I'm pretty certain I'm going to go with what is the starting lineup here. If I went with Anderson over Caicedo, I would probably bench Gyökeres. So that would be Anderson, Sunderland at home. Gyökeres away at Newcastle just for 1 week would be benched. Outside of that, that's the only thing that could change my starting 11. But yeah, as I say, I've got 0.0 in the bank with this team. And I'm almost certain I'm going to have at least 0.5 in the bank by the deadline. So that will probably be Caicedo back to stack. But part of me does want to do Caicedo to Anderson and like Anderson of Fulham down to a 4 million option. Lots of questions in the chat already about Erling Haaland. The yellow flag has been removed. He has been pictured back in training, and Pep Guardiola has said that he is ready to go. I did say several times throughout the week that I thought there was absolutely nothing to worry about, that he would be absolutely fine, and he just wanted to give him a rest during the cup game midweek before he played Burnley, then Champions League, and then Brentford in game week 7. And that is really what we saw. Pep Guardiola said that he was fine, he was ready to go, was pitched in training. Then the next question comes, if you're not playing a chip this week, would you be considering playing the triple captain? And looking at the poll, 23 of you in are already considering playing the triple captain. And to be honest, if I wasn't on Wildcard this week, I think I probably would be playing triple captain. Yeah, I do think Joe O'Reilly's already asking in the chat, if I wasn't on Wildcard, would I be playing my triple captain? I think I would, yes. It's a very high week for a chip. Looking at the poll, 90% of people are on a chip this week. Interesting question from Colm Flynn in the chat. Why Richards and Anderson over Van der Ven? So, if I went with Van der Ven, he'd get in my team this week at home to Wolves, which is definitely better, and I'd bench Gabriel. Next week away at Leeds, he doesn't actually get in. I think I've got Bournemouth at home to Fulham next week. I'd play Senesi. Tarkowski at home to Palace, I'd play because of Defcon, and Gabriel at home to West Ham. So he doesn't actually get in my team. And then the week after the international break, he's got Villa at home, which is a good fixture with the way Villa are playing. But I've still got Tarkowski drops to the bench in game week 8. But I play Gabriel away at Fulham. I think I play Senesi probably away at Palace. And then I play Richards at home to Bournemouth. So he only makes my team much better this week if I went with Van der Ven. And if we get further down the season and there is a week where I've got an issue, I've got a bad fixture and I need someone on my bench, having a Richards as an example, having an Anderson, because of their Defcon ability, I'd much rather that than having a Van der Ven, who is basically clean sheet or no clean sheet. Yeah. I don't know. I just think the thing is, though, people are like, oh, Harry, you're going to bench points with this team. But with the way that the 4 million defenders are, with the way that the 5 million midfielders are, you're going to bench points pretty much every single week now. Because even if I went with a Sunderland defender, they're going to get 3-4 points quite often. And if I go for a different midfielder, I'm going to get the same. So it actually has just, Defcon has made playing the bench boost easier and just less dangerous in any week, because you should probably end up with a higher floor. Lucas said, thoughts on Paqueta? I went with him and I still don't think there's that much wrong with him. If West Ham turn it around and start to look a little bit better, I still think at 5.9 he'll end up being a pretty decent option. Thoughts on Zubimendi? I still think that there is likely to be a change in that Arsenal midfield in some games. I don't think Zubimendi will play every game, is basically it. Tom, Fantasy Football Scouts. Morning, you've gone Pope in and Anderson in for Xhaka. Also Sanchez full point. I am tempted by Anderson. But do I think Anderson is much better than Stack? Is where I'm at. And Anderson is also predicted to drop in price tonight, which I don't love buying someone on my wildcard just as they're about to drop. And it's basically, do I think Anderson is actually worth it over Stack? Maybe. And I'd play him over Gyökeres this week, so we might, cash in on it now. People asking about Josh King and going with him over Caicedo. My issue with Josh King is I don't think he plays every game. I think if he doesn't start getting actual output, eventually it will catch up with him. He might not be starting anymore. Dan Burn or Tarkowski? I do prefer Tarkowski, but I do like the Newcastle defence. Dan Burn and Pope are both players that I would quite like in my team. So yeah, I like the Newcastle defence. If you want to go Burn or Pope, I like both of them. A reason for Gabriel over Timber Calafiori, just because Timber, Ben White, and Calafiori, Lewis Skelly, both things are right there, and they've got a lot of games between now and Christmas, and the games that you want Timber Calafiori to play are the games that there's most likely to be rotation in. So I'm never been one for taking that risk. Timber was good at times last year and I didn't really take the risk. The only time I've taken that gamble was on a free hit, I think, and I went Ben White a couple of years ago. But yeah, I wouldn't be taking that risk I'm not going to be taking it. So I'm just going to stick with the safety of Gabriel. Plus, I also like the ability to have a 6 million defender because I'm almost certain I'll want Virgil van Dijk in not too many weeks' time. So having that Gabriel placeholder just makes it easier. Which 4 million defender? It depends a little bit on when you're going to bench boost. I would either go Alderette, Mukiele, Rodon or Goodmanson. I probably wouldn't go with the Stev of Burnley, especially if you're going with Dubravka. So just having one Burnley, one someone else probably makes the most sense, but it will depend on what week you're looking to play your bench boost. So I can't answer it directly. If you've already bench boosted and it was purely just a little bit of bench cover, I think I would go probably to Leeds, probably go to Goodmanson or Rodon, probably. I just think some of the Sunderland, I know the others are good for Defcon, but some of the games for Sunderland coming up are not great. Pope, Gabriel and Bruno, or Raya, Gabriel and Foden. I just think Bruno's a better, safer pick than Foden, so I would go with the Bruno route. What is the thought behind Ndiaye over Grealish? I think Grealish rose in price last night as well. So I think that leaves me... There's 0.4 million difference between them. So that's probably enough in itself that I don't think there's much between them. Plus, I like the penalty taking and actually Defcon ability that Ndiaye does bring for just sort of a higher baseline most weeks. And like when we get to the Manchester City fixture, Ilham and Ndiaye can play. Grealish is suspended. Grealish not suspended. He can't play against his parent club in game week 8. So if you're looking to bench boost game week 8 and you're going Grealish, you can't because Grealish can't play that game. And Ndiaye's just cheaper now. Why not Mark Gay? So I could go with him over Richards, but if that defender's not going to get into my team most weeks, there's no real point in me spending that 0.2 million. It's not really worth it when I'm not even sure I need a 4.5 million defender there. Would I bench boost with Dubravka, Dewsbury Hall, Andersen, and Mukiele, or triple captain Haaland? I'm not sure I'd bench boost that. I mean, it's got Dubravka. There are much better options to bench boost. What's my logic with not going any Liverpool? So the thing with Liverpool, right, is I don't want to buy a Liverpool player just for the sake of having a Liverpool player in my team. I want to buy a player who I know I can trust in terms of my FPL output. So I actually am honest. I only think that leaves Salah and Van Dijk at the moment. I don't think any of the others are worthy picks in terms of minutes, in terms of rotation, in terms of output. I don't think any of the others are actually worth it outside of outside of going with Van Dijk and Salah. So I'm not going Salah, like I've committed to that. I'm going without him. I'm going to put Haaland in and I'm going without Salah. And then I plan on buying Virgil van Dijk in about game week 10, 11, 12 for Gabriel. The Liverpool fixtures turn and get really good, particularly from a defensive point of view, and Gabriel's get a little bit worse. And I'll keep Raya for Arsenal. Gabriel to Van Dijk is the plan. And outside of that, I don't really think I need that many defensive transfers. So, yeah. People in the chat saying this team is not affordable. So, in FPL, players' prices go up and down over the course of the season. So, if a player does well and performs really well, they go up in price. There are price changes. You can track them with live FPL and Fantasy Football Scout, which should Yeah, which is linked in the description if you want to go and have a look at it. Prices change every night. Yeah, where are we? Cool. Views on Saka over Gyökeres and Dan Burn versus Tarkowski. I don't mind Saka over Gyökeres if it fits your team structure well enough. The issue I've got with it is if you look at Saka and then you could go Saka and a cheap forward, right? And that's fine. You can do that. But if you still have your bench boost, it's so much more expensive. It's so much more expensive to go with Saka and a forward than it is to go with Gyökeres and a cheap midfielder. So, someone just said that Samuel, what was his name? I don't see that. Why Stack and not Dewsbury Hall? So I don't really want to go with a double up on Everton midfield, especially when I've already got double up. I don't think I need triple Everton. It feels like overkill, and it feels like something I might regret at some point. Stack or Elliot Anderson. If you've got the money for Elliot Anderson, I would go there. My only concern with Elliot Anderson is Forest are now playing this Ange-style football, which means they run an awful lot. It actually is good for Anderson as a pick when he plays because they're creating more XG. He actually gets more recoveries because the game is more end-to-end. But it's worse for him because he plays an awful lot of minutes and it's going to be more tiring on him. So I'm just not guaranteeing that Anderson is definitely going to play every week. And I'm not sure I need to take that risk in my first sub. Why would I take that risk? If it was going to start every week, I do think Anderson probably has a higher ceiling than someone like a Xhaka, someone like a Stag. But I'm not certain I need to take that risk. Let's have a look. Farball, wildcard 7, 8, or 13. You're doing Salah and I wouldn't wildcard 7. I just don't think 7 works. Spend 6.9 on a mid. 8th attacker could bench Rodgers or leave the cash for Williams to Gabriel in game week 7. I don't know what the rest of your team looks like. I don't like a wildcard 7. I think 8 and 13 definitely look much better. 6.9 for a midfielder. You could leave the cash. You'd need to leave $1 million. So you'd need to go... If you could go Reinders, you could go a Dewsbury Hall. You could take a 1 week punt on a Elliot Anderson and then play Rodgers next week and wildcard 8. That could work. Burma over Bruno. If Van der Ven to Burn and Ndiaye to Xavi Simons. I still think Bruno's better long term, but I don't mind the Brian and Berman. If it allows you enough upgrades, then you could consider it. But I don't think Ndiaye to Xavi Simons is that big an upgrade. What's the thoughts on we did Xavi, Foden, and Richarlison wildcard 6 with a free hit 7? I don't know why you'd free hit 7 if you're going Xavi, who's got Leeds away next week, Richarlison, who's got Leeds away, and Foden, who's got Brentford away. Team looks fine. I don't mind those picks on wildcard, but I don't know, Sam, if you'll need to do a free hit next week. Cheap alternatives to Richards if you need a 4 million option. It's a Sunderland defender or a Leeds defender. Why not Virgil van Dijk again? You don't understand. We feel like we've answered. What about Richarlison over Joao Pedro for 2 game weeks? That has been asked. Joao Pedro, Brighton at home. Sounds like he's been carrying a little bit of a knock, and then Liverpool at home. I think Richarlison probably does outscore Joao Pedro over the next 2, but is it worth it to do a transfer in a couple of weeks if you need to make the swap? I'm not sure it necessarily is, but I don't mind Richarlison short term over Joao Pedro, no. Caicedo feels like the obvious pick with a 4 million Leeds defender. Maybe. He has been good. I mean, yeah, he's not going to score goals like he has all the time. But there'll also be games where Caicedo doesn't start. Like, I'm not sure he plays all 4 of these with Champions League in between them as well. I'm not sure he definitely plays. So I feel like I don't want to necessarily take a risk on my first sub for someone who I don't think's guaranteed to play every game. Why not Enzo over Caicedo? I don't have the money for Enzo, and it's an 8th attacker, so it's an 8th attacker. I'm getting in my head with minutes, maybe, but I just don't think for the first sub it's worth. Yeah, with Lavia being back as well, as Tom's saying in the chat, just doesn't feel worth the risk. Anurag, let's have a look. You have 4 free transfers and 3 million in the bank. Sanchez, Anderson, Porro, Williams. Thinking 1 wildcard, 2 Bruno, Watkins, Rogers out for Haaland stack. Kudos. I'm not sure I'd sell Bruno before Brentford, Sunderland, if I'm honest. So I'd rather a wildcard and save your 4 free transfers. Lavia might just get injured again. Yeah, true. His injury record isn't great. Chris Wood or Watkins for this game week alone? Probably Chris Wood. Thoughts on Kudos over Ndiaye? Yeah, I quite like that. I think Kudos is a fine pick, particularly short term. I did say this. I wonder if people will sell Ndiaye to Enzo Fernandez in a couple of weeks' time after the international break. Yeah, if you don't want to go Caicedo, you can go stack. That's probably where I'm going to end up. I'm not sure Caicedo is definitely worth it. I think the money in the bank might be more useful. I don't need a bench that looks like this if I've already played my I've already played my bench boost, I don't think. Xavi Simons versus Ndiaye on wildcard. You have Tarkowski planned to bench boost in 8. If you're going to bench boost 8, Xavi Simons is probably better, but I would go Kudos over Xavi now. I just think that benching last week and the fact that he played 60 in the cup midweek is enough to make me a little bit concerned about his minutes. So I wouldn't go Xavi Simons now, I don't think. If I had the triple captain, would I play it? Yes. I'm on wildcard this week, so I'm not going to play it because I can't play 2 chips. But if I wasn't, I think I'd play it. So the idea with the wildcard, and particularly the reason that I want to go Richards and Anderson, is I don't want to be in a position where I'm forced to make a defensive transfer. If I look at them long term, there's neither of them are amazing in a particular period. But if you combine Anderson and Richards, they offer great depth together. So I just hope that I don't... And they're both good for Defcon, right? I think Richards has hit it... Has he only hit it once? But he's like the 5th highest scoring... Yeah, he's actually only hit it once. But he is right up there for defenders for Defcon so far this season already. And they're pretty good defensively, Crystal Palace. So together, they offer pretty good depth that my hope until we get the game week 16 5 free transfers is I only need to do one defensive move, which is to buy Virgil van Dijk. It could be in place of Gabriel. It also could be in place of Tarkowski. It could be either of those. So that is the hope, that I don't have to use loads of transfers. Which means if Mo Salah looks good, if I want to go and buy Gakpo, if Palmer's back, if I need to go to Saka, if I need to change and die, hopefully I've got enough transfers to do it. Because having Defcon defenders who even in a bad game you can still play, hopefully allows a little bit more flexibility with the rest of my team. I also don't love David Raya. I feel like we owned him last year and he was so frustrating. But we were so close to a lot of clean sheets with him last year that just didn't happen. Like, I just remember loads of weeks where he'd just concede from a really low chance shot. And if some of them didn't go in, he would have been the highest scoring goalkeeper. And if I plan on selling Gabriel, I still want to keep a bit of the Arsenal defence long term. So going Raya and Gabriel allows me the flexibility if I do decide to sell. Gabriel. Any thoughts on Doku? Doku's an interesting one. I personally don't love him. You'll probably understand asking that question that he's not going to be a very Harry type pick. But his minutes look good and he looks very involved. I just have never been convinced of his output. So, yeah, basically. I don't think it's... it feels like picking a City player for the sake of picking a City player. Van Dijk and Stack or Caicedo and Tarkowski. To be honest, Stack and Tarkowski is most likely where I end up. I just wanted to, in case we saw a price rise on... If we saw a price rise on Caicedo last night, which was possible. I've already used my bench boost. I bench boost in game week 5. I got 23 points in my bench boost last week. Jack, what's my thoughts on a Tottenham defender over Arsenal and benching Gabriel's but playing Raya for Van de Ven? What's my thoughts on a Tottenham defender over Arsenal? Oh, I suppose that's like going Van de Ven over Richards and benching Gabriel. I'm just not sure there's that much, like it's completely worth it. I don't think there'll be that many goals in the Arsenal game. Probably. Gyökeres or Isak? So there's a few questions in the chat about Isak. I think he starts today, but I just think it's an issue going forward. And I just still don't think Isak's in a place fitness-wise that he'll play all the games. Yeah. So I still can't back Isak as a pick yet. Exact money for Anthony over Stack. I think if you want a first sub who you're not going to play every week, you just want a player who's got a pretty decent base level of points. Which is someone like a Xhaka and probably someone like a Stack over Anthony, despite how good Anthony has been. How about double Arsenal over one Arsenal and one Spurs? I just think long term, the Arsenal fixtures are much better now. But Van de Ven's much cheaper, so. Tarkowski, JBR, Tarkowski, Chalobah for 1 week only. I'd still go Tarkowski over Chalobah. Especially with the injuries that Chelsea have got defensively. Start 3 of Virgil, Gabriel, Van de Ven and Senesi. I'd probably bench Gabriel out of them. You have to play Van de Ven and Senesi, I'd say. Patton says, Ndai, only 3 good fixtures next 10. Xavi, Eze or Anthony. I saw a predicted lineup for Arsenal today that didn't have Eze in. I wouldn't go Anthony and I'd probably go Kudos over all of them. But Xavi, Simmons. If I had to pick one of them. Shane, Salah and Eze and Richarlison or Isak, Saka and Foden. I don't like Isak and I don't like Eze. So, if it could be Salah and Richarlison or Gyökeres, Saka, Foden, I think I'd go Gyökeres, Saka, Foden. But if you're set on those 3 players, I probably would go the Eze route. But exact money we've done. Start 3 of Van Dijk we've done. You can bring in Ndai for Bruno. You can bring in Ndai or Bruno for a -4. You're currently playing Semenyo, Reinders, Caicedo, Palmer for Palmer. I would go Bruno, I think. Yeah. I do agree with you all on Ndai. But they've looked pretty good. He's also had a couple of games where he's hit Defcon, and even the games he hasn't hit Defcon, his base is quite high. And his attacking returns are not bad for someone at that price. Chelsea's predicted front 4 today will probably be, it will be Joao Pedro, Neto, Esteval, and one more. It could be Enzo in the 10. It could be Mark Guiu. It could be another winger. Yeah, I think it'll probably be... I wonder if he'll go Enzo to add a bit of security in there. But my guess would be... Could be Buonanotte. He can't play against Brighton. Sadly. Why no Foden on my wildcard? I could go, but it's Foden versus Bruno for me, really. Or versus Gyökeres. And I think I prefer Gyökeres Bruno over Foden. So... Why do I dislike Eze? Just because if it's true that Odegaard is back, then I just don't know he's definitely going to start games. People will say, well, he's going to play on the left, but Martinelli and in some way Trossard are doing very good jobs at staking their claim to that position. And they play too many games, and even when Eze starts, he's going to get taken off. Eze is a better player than Odegaard and Martinelli. There's no risk. Like, he might be, but unfortunately, Odegaard is the captain of Arsenal, and he's not going to bench Odegaard for Eze. And they play 3 times a week, every week, for the next 5 months, basically. So there will be games where it will be Eze, and there will be games where it will be Martinelli, and there'll probably be games where it will be Trossard. And even games where Eze starts, he's still only playing 60, 70 anyway. I mean, if you want to go Eze and you disagree, that's absolutely fine. Like, I feel like this season in particular, there's a lot of players to discuss and a lot of players to talk about, and there's no way I'm going to get all of them right. I'll probably end up only getting a fraction of them right. Hopefully the fraction of the right ones are the ones that impact my team. But if you think Eze plays every game, then yeah, absolutely go with him, because his data is good when he plays. He's playing in an Arsenal team and he's looked good so far this season. Would I rather Foden or Joao Pedro? I just think long term you'll want Joao Pedro. Like, you might not love the next couple of games, but after the international break, when it's Forest away, Sunderland, Spurs, Wolves, Burnley, Arsenal, Leeds, Bournemouth, Everton, I just think long term you'll want him. So, yeah, not Enzo over Caicedo. It's the fact that I can't afford it, but I'm also unlikely to end up with Caicedo at all. I want to leave a bit of money in the bank in case I need to do something. In case I want to sell, like, let's say something happens to Ndai. I think Ndai is probably if I look at the players I'm most likely to sell quickly, I'd say Ndai's got to be up there. If I had to pick which player I will sell first, I would say Ndai. And I imagine you'd agree. Xhaka or Stack? I've been going back and forth on this. My only thing with Xhaka is the fixtures have been quite good. West Ham, Burnley, Brentford, Palace, Villa. And they get pretty rough for Sunderland. And I know he's just a first bench, but I don't know how I feel. Like, and particularly like when some of them over Christmas are actually all right, but I don't know how I feel on the 5 million options. I like Minte. He's just too expensive for it. He's 5'9", and I'm not going to play this player very much. So I want a 5 million option, really, unless I don't go with a 4.5 defender, which I do think I'll do. So Stack, I mean, 0.23 XGI per 90 on some set pieces. That's what? A return every 4 games, roughly. Defcon, a return every 2 games, almost. So we're getting to a point with Defcon that, with Stack, that you're getting a little bit every couple of weeks. And as I've been saying, I do like Caicedo for depth, I do, but I have it in my mind at the moment that I want a few players. The ones that I need for my depth, I don't want to have in Europe if I can help it. just because the added rotation that you get with a Chelsea player, the added rotation that you get with an Elliot Anderson, that's my only concern with going with them. Anonymous YouTuber on Wildcard 6, who to target for bench boost 7 or is bench boost 8 yet better? Let's have a look. So if you're on bench boost 7, you're probably going... Dubravka's fine. You're probably not going a Sunderland defender. I mean, you could. You're probably going... I mean, the issue is the cheap defenders don't look great next week. It's more inclined if you're not going a 4 million option. Whereas if you're going bench boost 8, you can go Burnley, Sunderland and Wolves. Burnley, Sunderland and Leeds, sorry. They look good for bench boost 8. So if you've got a stack, you've got... but then the only issue there is you've got City, Everton. Game week 9, I do agree, Chelsea said in the chat, looks pretty good. If you've gone Leeds, you can go at home to West Ham. Burnley have Wolves away. You don't go Sunderland then. You go for a Leeds defender. Fulham have there. You've got Palace away at Arsenal is the only thing in that week. So it depends a little bit on which of the cheap options you've gone with, because as I've just shown, if you're going Leeds versus Sunderland versus Palace versus Fulham, it will be different based on which players you're going with. Why Richards over Mark Gay? So I think that's a reasonable question, and I almost did it. But then I don't think Richards gets in my team that often. It's mainly a bench risk of rotation type player there in case anything goes wrong. And I don't need to spend that 0.2 on Gay when that player's not going to get in my team very much. Yeah, thank you. If you could drop a like on the stream. There are 5,000 of you in this morning. So good morning and thank you all very much for joining. If you haven't liked, please do so. And if you are new to the channel, please do subscribe. I was very fortunate. I saw one of my bucket list artists sing last night. If there's any country music people or anyone who knows anything about it, I went and saw Luke Combs sing last night. And along with other people, I also saw Mumford & Sons. It was at this thing called the Grand Ole Opry, which came to London last night. And Mumford & Sons, I saw Luke Combs were the two of my favourite and were just amazing, honestly. I wanted to see him. I have seen... So, a little bit of a side topic. Apologies. We'll get back to FPL in a moment. Me and Holly... we like our country music. We saw Morgan Wallen in concert last year, which was amazing. But Luke Combs was the other one that we wanted to tick off. We wanted to tick off our bucket list, and we did that, and he was incredible. Mumford & Sons were also very, very good. I love their music, and I've never thought to see them live, and I thought they were, as a band, just amazing as well. And actually some of the others that I hadn't heard before were also really good. I can't remember their names off the top of my head, but yeah, Luke Combs was incredible. Yeah. It was so good. It was so good. And apparently he's going to a Premier League game today, Luke Combs. He said on stage that he was going, or the host said, I hear you're going to a Premier League game tomorrow. He didn't say which it is. And he's in London, so I'm hoping I'm hoping he's going to be at Stamford Bridge today, and I'm gonna turn up 2 hours early just so I can meet him. That's the hope. He didn't say he's a Chelsea fan. He didn't say which game he was going to. Victoria's Wildcard 6 thoughts: Gabriel, Anderson, Gudmundsson, Saka, Bruno, Semenyo, Reinders, Caicedo, Haaland, Joao Pedro, Evan Nilsson. Yeah, it's nice. If you're not going Gyökeres, you're going Saka. I think it looks great. Bench boost gone, so Guiu on the bench if it enables Saka. Yeah, so I could do that. Like, I could do Gyökeres to Guiu and Caicedo to Saka. And maybe that's better. But I like, I think I want to go with Gyökeres, especially if we think he's on pens. Especially if we think he's on pens. Yeah, Luke Holmes the GOAT. Him and Morgan Wallen, I find it hard to pick between the two of them. Pick 2 of Saka, Fernandes, Foden. I'd drop Foden, I think. Would I start Anderson or Gyökeres? If I went Caicedo to Anderson, I'd be benching Gyökeres. I think. Do I plan for the bench boost? So I actually bench boost last week. So, no. Thankfully, I got it out of the way. I think it's Oasis tonight. If you're going, I hope you have the best time. I like Oasis, but I was never going to get a ticket and take a ticket away from anyone. So if you are going to Oasis or you've seen it, I hope you have the best time because it's meant to be amazing. Sorry, let's go back to the FPL, shall we? Why go Tarkowski over Gvardiol and Ndai over Kudos on Wildcard? So the thing with Tarkowski is we've seen with the Defcon defenders that like Tarkowski could concede and still get 4 points quite easily, whereas Gvardiol is kind of a 6 and a 2 every week. So I quite like the base that the Defcon defenders are having at the moment, and the idea with going with Defcon defenders, not just based on attacking or good defenders with good fixtures like Gvardiol, is you're less forced into making a transfer if the fixtures get worse, because you can still play Tarkowski, because even if he concedes 2 or 3, if he then gets Defcon, which he has done in every single game, he's then still getting 3 points, which is not the worst base for a defender. Someone said to me he doesn't have much goal threat, and I was trying to have a look at this, and actually, he's hardly scored any goals. He feels like he should score more than he does. He 1 goal, 1 assist, 1 goal, 1 assist, 1 goal. He's never scored more than 1 goal since when he was at Burnley, which I was really surprised at. I have in my head, and I actually have in my head that he was more attacking than he is. If you were wildcarding this week and bench boosting 8, what players would I be looking at? I'd go Dubravka. I would go probably a Leeds defender in 8. If I was bench boosting 8, I'd go Dubravka. I'd go a Leeds defender. I'd probably go Richards over Anderson maybe, or one of the two of them. And then Stack, I'd say. Stack or Anthony. Yeah. It's basically the same, but I could bench boost. If I went Caicedo to Stack, you could easily bench boost my team in game week 6. In game week 8, sorry. It's not perfect, but you definitely could. I'm actually planning on Spurs is not an easy fixture. Who was I saying playing against Spurs? I don't know. Yeah, Spurs is definitely not an easy fixture. Why not Papsar over Stack? So again, with the amount of midfielders that they've got now, I was listening to Planet FPL and he thinks there will be some rotation for that Spurs team, and it includes Papsar. The best weeks to wildcard are 6, hopefully. 8 and 13 are the other 2 good ones, if you haven't used the chip. Haaland triple captain, yes. If I was not playing the wildcard this week, I'd probably be on triple captain Haaland. Saw Oasis in Wembley. It was the best experience of your life. I never really did Oasis that much, and I appreciate that is horrible for some people to hear, but I know that people who loved them said it's been incredible. So I'm glad. I'm glad because some of those tickets were very expensive. So if you have got them, I'm glad it's been worth it. How could I abandon Agbadu? I think it was about time. When they conceded 3 to Leeds, think it was about time we got rid of, enough is enough with Agbadu. Enough was enough. Bench 1, Eze, Kudos, Dewsbury Hall, Gyökeres, Joao Pedro. Bench 1, I mean, if I'm honest, I'd probably bench Eze because he's not just the least guaranteed to start. Bench 1, Van de Ven, Gabriel, Senesi, Tarkowski. I'd bench Gabriel. I don't think it's the end of the world if you've built a wildcard team that means you're benching an Arsenal player this week. Like, if you've got a great defence and you've gone... and you're benching Gabriel or you're benching Gyökeres, I think it's okay for this week because part of the reason for wildcard is because their fixtures from 7 onwards look great, right? There's a period here, which is when I might sell one of them. Yeah. So that's the plan. I know I said enough is enough in one video, but I now seem to get it in the comments of so many. It seems to have become a catchphrase of this season. Enough is enough. I've already bench boost, but if you wanted to, you could just go with this and bench boost in 8. I'm going to go stack over Caicedo as well. I'm not going to go Caicedo. I don't think he's worth the money. And Caicedo didn't rise, did he? No. I mean, that shouldn't change it. But what I am looking at is Elliot Anderson is predicted to fall in price tonight. And if he was to fall and I get to a position where I've got a luxury transfer, I might do stack to him. But I don't want to buy a player. I wanted to wildcard for team value, and I can't buy a player who's about to drop in price. How's stack? There is so much price movement, but it is worth noting that the price changes are slower this week than people anticipated, and that is because so many wildcards are active, and wildcard transfers don't impact price changes. So if everyone was on wildcard, technically no player's price would change, because if you're on wildcard, it doesn't... I always like to look at with players like that is their Christmas fixtures, which are all right. Let's have a look at Anderson's. Because that might be when you're called into using your bench is over Christmas. Fulham play... And I know it's a long way away, but I actually have loads of bad fixtures in game week 20, which is that 3rd of Jan week. It's the final one at the end of the Christmas period. Well, actually, it's not. There's a Wednesday game in there. That Saturday, the 3rd one. Let me just scroll down and look at game week 20. I know it's a long way away, and I'm worrying about game week 20, but I just want to have a look. Like, who do Burnley play? It doesn't really help. Who does Sunderland play? Well, Xhaka's no more helpful either. And actually, in game week 20, stack at home to United's not the worst if United are still playing like they are. Cool. Caicedo back to stack. If I had to go in Burma or Foden on wildcard, my head says Mbermo, but I think I'd probably say Foden. Caicedo out, stack in. Cool. I could also go Xhaka. Yeah, possible. Sorry, one sec. Let me... Just because I've got like weird zooms on to try and make it fit the screen. So when I make a transfer it and change tab, it goes a bit weird. So there we go. Cool. Back to it. Right. Let's do some questions. 6,500 of you in the chat and only 800 likes. Ooh. If you could drop a like on the stream, if we could hit 1,000, that would be much appreciated. So, triple captain Isak or Haaland? I definitely wouldn't go Isak triple captain, no. Haaland. I should probably put... Then we put it in the hot topic one. I would triple captain Haaland if I was not wildcarding this week. I would. 1 second. That's too big now. Triple captain Haaland. Cool. Well, random one. If Stack and Gyökeres, but would rather Caicedo and Ekitike once back, I have just enough money for this week. Should I do it now or hold? You have Stack and Gyökeres, but would rather Caicedo. I think Stack and Gyökeres is better than Ekitike. I just wouldn't go for a Liverpool forward. Because some people in the chat are so convinced that it's going to be Isak straight away now and he'll play every Premier League game. But I'm not convinced of it. I'm just not that convinced of it. You're thinking of giving Watkins 2 more weeks on wildcard and waiting to see with Salah Gyökeres. Is this mad? No, but the only issue with that is you're basically going Gyökeres because you're putting the money up front. So if you want Saka, it's 2 transfers. And if you went Gyökeres to get Saka, it's still 2 transfers. So I feel like you're better off going straight to Gyökeres. And if you get it right, you don't need any transfers. If you get it wrong, it's 2. Van der Ven and Caicedo or Romero and Elliot Anderson. Van der Ven and Caicedo or Romero and Anderson. I probably would go Romero. Just with the fixtures again with Van der Ven. Probably would go Romero. Is triple captain Haaland this week overrated? I mean, Burnley are the worst team in the league for expected goals conceded. Haaland looks absolutely on it at the moment, but Burnley did frustrate Liverpool. And the only caveat to that is that Liverpool were at home. So I don't think it's overrated, if I'm honest. I think it's a good week to play it. But there are other opportunities. If you look at Haaland, as an example, 13 Leeds at home, 15 Sunderland at home, 17 West Ham at home, 19 Sunderland away. There's loads of other chances. And if you look at Liverpool, they have the same. There's similar opportunities for Salah. Matoma and Stack, 0.1 in the bank, or Minte and Elliot Anderson, nothing in the bank. I wouldn't go Matoma over Minte in either world. So I probably would go Minte and Elliot Anderson, I think. Haven't I seen how Burnley defended against Liverpool? I mean, Liverpool still put up 2.5 XG in that game. They just didn't finish very well. And I know 0.7 of that comes from the penalty, but still, 1.8 XG is still enough for Haaland to have done damage if he gets that. And the other thing about Liverpool versus City is Liverpool share that XG around a lot. Haaland is getting so much of City's at the moment. Yeah, people have said, why not start Anderson over Gabriel? And that might be the sensible thing to do. Fulham have been good defensively this season. They have. And Anderson served me well with 3, 4 and a 10-pointer. Richards to Van der Ven, start Van der Ven. The only issue with that is he's more expensive now, and I'm just not sure how often I use Van der Ven going forward. I like having Richard's long-term fixtures. I just like as a bit of security. There's a lot of weeks where I wouldn't mind benching him, but also he's just pretty nice for depth, especially if his Defcon numbers look pretty good. And then actually after Christmas, if I still hold on to him, which I might, they go into a pretty nice run. So I am thinking pretty long-term with that defense. If we look at the scout member area, I'm pretty sure he is like top 10 for Defcon so far this season. And he's much above Mark Gay in terms of it. Now, his attacking threat looks better. Yeah, let me pull it up here. Ooh. Yeah, so defensively, he's here. He's actually had the same as Lacroix, but he's hit it one less time. This says he's hit it twice. Oh, he did, yeah, West Ham and Villa. Yeah, that is correct. And actually, Mark Gay is much lower down. He's only had 36 compared to 50 for Richards. And I just like that. Like I've got Senesi, I've got Tarkowski, I've got Anderson, and I've got Richards. I also like Vandenberg. If Brentford were even half decent defensively, I might have gone with Vandenberg. Sunderland, you've also got Alderette up there. You've got Rodon, if you want. Dan Burns also quite high up. You do have the Burnley defenders. So if you're looking for defenders who want a bit of Defcon, there are quite a lot of good options here. You do have Romero if you're going Spurs. Who else is high up here? Mukiele, who's only started 3 and he's already had 42 Defcon. Just not sure how many clean sheets I expect Sunderland to keep. Is the only thing. I was looking at price changes last night, and I have to say there were a few which made it feel slightly better about playing the wildcard. Watkins fell, but Sanchez fell and Williams fell. And that is 0.3 in value that I just didn't expect to have lost this week if I hadn't have played the wildcard. So I've gained like 0.8 value. Right, where were we? No Haaland. Want to keep Salah to see how he goes with Isak in the team. Salah Haaland wildcard is difficult. If I don't wildcard now, well, you could wait until 6 and feel like if you've got the Haaland thing wrong, then you could do it again. But then you're wildcarding just as Haaland goes into a few more difficult games. So, to be honest, if you're not buying Haaland now, you can probably wait until 13. Bench Dewsbury Hall or Gyökeres. I think I have that. It's the top of my benching ranking, which is literally up on screen now. Dewsbury Hall first, Gyökeres second. So I would play Dewsbury Hall over Gyökeres. I do have benching ranking in the top right, ranking some players who you might be considering starting or benching. I've also then got it by goalkeepers. These things come around every minute or so. Yeah. Thoughts on Waltemada or Gyökeres? Gyökeres. I still don't trust Waltemada's minutes. Vishnu, what do I think of Foden captain over Haaland? I don't really... It's one of those where you're captaining a player from the same team to the popular one, where you're hoping City score a lot of goals, but you're hoping it's not Haaland, which is not really a bet I'd like to take, because at the moment they feel like they're creating a lot of their whole team XG just for Haaland, so I'm not sure I would do that. If you wanted to back against Haaland, I probably would look completely elsewhere rather than going with Foden, but Foden's a good pick. I think I'd let him be a differential enough in your team. I don't think you need to captain him. There's a chance Jed Spence starts a right back, but I think Porro will start. Szoboszlai or Iliman and Dye. I think I'd go and Die, because even with Szoboszlai, they do have McAllister. They've got Wirtz who will play games, so It's a no from me on him. If you activated Wildcard and confirm the transfers, do I have until the deadline to keep making free transfers? Yes. So I've actually sold, since I did the first lot on when I played it, I was on a minus, I think I was on a minus 28. I then sold Richards and bought a Sunderland defender. I then sold the Sunderland defender and bought Richards. I then sold Stack and bought Caicedo, and now I've sold Caicedo and bought Stack. I basically made 4 transfers at the end there, but gone back to exactly where we started. Thank you very much. We are going to put this in subscriber only mode. You literally have to have subscribed for 1 second to be able to start using the chat again. So if you are not subscribed, please do subscribe and you will be able to start using the chat if my YouTube doesn't freeze. There we go. Thoughts on Pope instead of Raya to upgrade Caicedo to Ndai? If it's an 8th attacker, I don't think you need Ndai as your 8th attacker, if I'm honest. Get ready for a Bruno red card. I've been through the absolute runner with Bruno so far this season. I've had a penalty miss. I had him last season when he got sent off against Wolves. Yeah, Xhaka instead of Stack. I don't mind it. I just think the Sunderland fixtures get quite bad quite soon. And I don't know whether I will want Xhaka in that period where, I mean, his base is pretty good. He just gets 4 points every week. But I think Stack will probably outscore him this season. Your team is too template. So I did talk about this in the complete guide video on Friday. My team is, and I get it. Like, my team is very highly owned. It's got all the popular picks in and probably has an extra 0.5 spent on defense, even though I've already used my bench boost. But 5% of the game are on wildcard this week. Only 5. 1 in 20 people are playing their bench boost. So their wildcard. So it is still a differential enough to be playing the chip. So you've still got enough changes to the most people playing. And I think I've got 7 players who are under 20% owned. It might be less now because I think Bruno's gone above it. It means I've still got like 7 players under 22% owned if you include Bruno, which is still quite a lot. Like, it's not filled with 40, 50% owned players. So the chip feels more differential. It feels less differential than it actually is because only 5% of the player base are playing it this week. Depends what rank you are. Yeah, but I still think some of them won't be that high. At my rank tier of 2.1 million. Start Munoz or Anderson. I think I've got that in the benching ranking when it comes around in a couple of minutes. All the Crystal Palace defenders were grouped together, but I do have both of those in it. So it will be up in just a moment. On Wildcard, how about Richarlison this week to Gyökeres next week? I don't mind it. I'm just not sure it's worth a transfer. With Wildcard in 6, I feel like we need to be in an ability and a position to roll transfers over quite a few weeks. Wildcard, what do I think? YouTuber, Dubravka, Donnarumma. Munoz isn't worth the money. Apart from that, it looks pretty good. And I'm not sure I'd go Isak. Ooh. Wouldn't go Isak personally, and I wouldn't go Munoz. Joao Pedro and Reinders to Foden and Guiu to try and cover triple captain Haaland and use free transfers to revert it next week. I wouldn't do that if you're going to just undo it next week. You're losing value just to get Foden. And like, Reinders is just as good a pick as Foden. I wouldn't do those, no. Harry, I just want to apologise for doubting you on the bench boost last week. If I'd have listened, I'd have had 27 points. Whoa, 27. Wow, I wonder who it was. It was probably the same as me, but instead of Porro, I don't know who else you could have had, but probably similar to me. Is it worth having Gabriel and Saliba? Not when neither of them are not great for Defcon. I don't think it's worth having both. That's why I've gone Raya. Can I please add Nottingham Forest? If you've got Forest defence, I'd play them. Yeah. I'd play Forest defence over an Arsenal defender this week. If you've got them at home to Sunderland. Would I go with starting Wood or Anderson, considering Wood's minute risks? I probably would go Wood because I think he starts. He didn't play at all midweek. You can't see Spurs. And again, if you've got Spurs defenders at home to Wolves, I would again play them, yeah. Thoughts on Foden on Wildcard? I don't dislike him as a pick. I just don't think he's better than Reinders. So if you're going to go Foden, it would be because you're going Haaland, Reinders, Foden. Reinders at 5 point... He dropped and now he's risen again. 5.7 is still great value. So if you're going Foden, it's instead of Fernandes. And I don't mind it. I still think I prefer Bruno. It was... Oh, Armando, it was great to meet you. It was. I did go with some friends to the Spurs game on Wednesday. It was not the most exciting of games, but I appreciate it. 5 a.m. in Canada. Hope your trip home was safe and fine. To everyone else who's watching, whether it's in America, whether it's in Canada, wherever you are, that is at a crazy hour of the morning, I want to say a big thank you to you, because when I traveled to America trying to upload my videos while I was on my honeymoon, it highlighted to me how difficult it is to play this game in a time zone that doesn't agree with the deadlines. So big shout out to anyone who is watching or playing FPL at 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 a.m. in New York. Thank you to you all. Sydney, Australia, 7:50. You like the early morning ones. I'm planning on being in Sydney at some point. Not too long. 5 a.m. Your wife is sleeping to your right. I hope you've got headphones in. If I shout, is it going to wake her up? Gakpo or Ndai. So I'd be interesting to hear Liverpool fans think, who plays up front today? Presumably Isak. But what happens when Isak comes off? Does it go Vert or does he go Gakpo? I think Gakpo's minutes are fine. I think Gakpo's minutes are fine. But I'm not sure I'd take the gamble on it. When they've got Palace away this week, just feels such a hard fixture. Yeah, I am planning on coming into Sydney, and it is during the season. So I am wondering about doing I think the first game of one of the days is one of the weekends I'm there is 6 a.m. of doing a breakfast or something. A little FPL thing, but yeah, we'll see. Is Henderson and goalkeeper a good differential? I think he's fine at 5 million. I think I prefer Pope and Vicario, and even Sanchez. I think Sanchez down at 4.9. I'm just gonna say, I think there'll be points where if Sanchez continues to drop, he'll be back in a lot of our teams at some point. If I need to free up money, I'm going right back to Sanchez, but I'm not doing it now. Down at 4.9 now. Is Richarlison a good differential for game week 6 and 7? Yes, he should start both, yeah. Should start both. I might need someone from Sydney to help me out with it, though. Do I think Sanchez is nailed? Yes, I do. Yeah, I wouldn't. If you watched Chelsea play midweek against Lincoln, you will know that anything Sanchez has done is just going to be better than Jorgensen is. Yeah. If I could, would I go Saka over Gyökeres? If yes, it depends. If I had to go with a Mark Guiu or a a Creepy Junior, a player up front who's not going to get many minutes, then I probably wouldn't. I just still think even once I've had the bench boost out of the way, I still think I'd want a bit of depth. But if I could get up to a Lyle Foster of Burnley or a Calvert-Lewin of Leeds and just bench them every week, I don't think that's an issue. Wood or Sarr? Chris Wood this week. Yeah, I think Chris Wood starts. I'm not sure. I think Chris Wood is an issue. Don't get me wrong. I think there'll be a point pretty quickly where it might not be Chris Wood, given how good Igor Thiago has been and all this talk that he fits an Ange system better than Chris Wood does. But I don't think it's going to be this week. And this is the last game you really want your Forest players. This is the end of their fixture run. Thank you for reminding me to hydrate. Virgil, Van der Ven or Gabriel on the bench. I'd start Van der Ven over Gabriel if I had both. Yeah, I am planning on doing a little bit of Australia. For a few reasons. Content will never stop though. I think there's going to be 1 week where I'm going to have to stream at 3 a.m. but we will be there. It is, part of it. Braden knows. I'm not just staying in Sydney, good morning. Start Paqueta versus Everton away or Mateta at home. I probably play Paqueta away at Everton. For the long term, would I go Gay, Van der Ven or Cash? I definitely wouldn't go Cash. One of the others. Gay, probably Gay. Would I be on triple captain if I wasn't on Wildcard? Yes, I probably would, yeah. I need to save some chips. The only two I've got left now is free hit and triple captain. My plan at the start of the season was, Harry, you're going to save all your chips to at least game week 13. And then here we are 6 weeks in and I've already played 2 of them. And I'm 2.1 million. So we need to save some of them. Yes, I am at the Chelsea game today. Why not Donnarumma, Pope, Gabriel to balance the defence and risk? Yeah, I just think the short-term fixtures for Arsenal just look just too good to ignore. And like when you look at some of their data, they've conceded more than 1 XG once so far this season, and that was in the United game, where they did in fact keep a clean sheet. I just think defensively they look so good. And they've got depth, which is the real boost to them. Which player who was left in the Premier League do I wish was back in FPL now? Who have I enjoyed owning that I'm sad I can't own anymore? I don't know. John Lundstrom would be an absolute beast. A defender, probably getting Defcon playing midfielder. That's a bit boring though. I can't even remember who I've owned. Eden Hazard, but like I just remember owning him and just like every week he just would be injured and I'd never know if he was going to play. But he is, prime Eden Hazard is top. Is Gordon starting? Probably. His suspension is over now. Oh, Alexis Sanchez. I remember holding him for 4 goals against West Ham. You changed to Timber and Van der Ven instead of Gabriel and Anderson. I don't mind it. I just still think that we will see a start for Ben White at some point. Why? Chaël, let's have a look what you said. Pick between Mburma or Ndai, also Timber and Anderson. I'd go Anderson because I'm still not I don't love the Timber pick. And I would probably go Ndai over Mburma, I think. I think. Start Reinders or Gyökeres. Reinders definitely. Is Grealish worth a hit or play Rodon? It depends who you're selling. If you're selling a player you don't want, then if you're selling an injured player, then yeah, just go to Grealish. But why stack over Caicedo? Just because I'm not going to play the many weeks, really. So I just want a slightly cheaper one, given I've played the bench boost. You probably missed your answer, but that's all right. Is there a reason why you don't have a single Spurs player, considering the easy matchup in the next 2 fixtures? Yeah, so I have considered them. If I actually went with next week, so if I look at my defense, this is the lovely new Plan FPL that is coming very soon. Luckily got a chance to test it. In game week 7, if I had Van de Ven over Richards, he just doesn't get in. I would play Tarkowski, Senesi and Gabriel over Van de Ven next week. So it's only really 1 week. And maybe Kudos is better than Ndai for the next couple, but I don't know how much I need it. I don't know how much I need it. I'd rather Van de Ven this week, but I'm not sure it's worth it long term. Listen, if I was on free hit, I'd have triple Spurs this week. So Gvardiol and 0.6 in the bank, or Gabriel and 0.3. I think I'd just go Gabriel, I think. How do I feel about a 1 week punt on Richarlison before going Gyökeres? I just think there'll be enough that you might want those transfers for, so I wouldn't do that, no. Saka, Dewsbury Hall, Evan Nielsen, or Gyökeres and Caicedo. Well, I think I prefer the Gyökeres route, and that's where I've gone. So, Porro likely to be rested. Move to another Spurs defender if you're on Wildcard. I wouldn't own Porro on Wildcard regardless. I don't think he's worth the money. Just like Munoz isn't showing that he's worth the money. They have to get so many attacking returns to have the money in the bank. Sorry, they have to get... I'm reading too many questions at once. They have to get so many attacking returns to combat the Defcon that the others are getting at a cheaper price. Porro doesn't look like he's worth it, nor do Munoz. They haven't, in hindsight, with the power of Defcon, priced these others. Why is no one talking about Garner as a 5 million option? I think for a lot of people going with Tarkowski and Ndai, you don't want to have that option as your next player, because if you ever needed to bench one of those, you've just got the same fixture. So it's good to have a little bit of diversification with your teams. No, I would play Anderson or Forest over Gyökeres. Yeah, I would. If I had Anderson in for stack, I'd bench Gyökeres. Am I certain Haaland starts? I mean, I don't know, but Pep said he's ready to go. So I have nothing more to go on than that. And I didn't think he was injured during the week, and I think he's fine now. So I don't really worry about it. Van de Ven and Caicedo, or Romero and Xhaka. I'd probably go Romero, Xhaka. Should I get Gyökeres or Foden? I prefer Gyökeres. I know the fixture for this week makes it look Foden, but I still think I prefer Gyökeres. Might have my draft, but Rodon instead of Richards. That's fine. You can just leave the money in the bank because you might need it in a couple of weeks. You never know. The other reason that I want to leave that money in the bank is in case I want to go to... I have exact money to do Tarkowski to Van Dijk. And if in a few weeks if Liverpool look good defensively, I can just do Tarkowski to Van Dijk and not do the Gabriel move. So that's the other reason that 0.6 in the bank is quite useful. Thoughts on Isak and Foden on Wildcard with 5 free transfers next week? And Liam, I'm just not sure I'd do that. I'm not sure I'd do that, yeah. I just don't think it's worth booking in 2 transfers. But if you've got 5 free next week, I'd punt on one of them, probably. But I'm not sure I'd punt on both. You've had the exact... we've done that. Caicedo, Evan Nielsen, or Ndai, DCL. Probably Caicedo, Evan Nielsen. Gakpo out for Bruno, or just roll this week. Want Bruno. If you want Bruno for the long term, I'd do it. I think this is an alright fixture for them. 5.5 million midfielder, toying with Xhaka and saving the 0.5. If you've played your bench boost, particularly Nick, I would go with a 5 million option. And I like Xhaka. Xhaka versus Stack is really close. There's also a new Burnley defender, midfielder called Florentino, who hit 7 Defcon in 27 minutes against Liverpool and 18 at home to Forest. Are there any Burnley fans in the chat who can tell me if this player at 5 million is going to play every week? Because if he's getting these Defcon numbers, 18 Defcon and 7. He's had 25 Defcon in 117 minutes. Yeah, I think the issue is he started because Ugachukwu got sent off. Benfica fans in the chat loving him. Football Manager legend. Yeah, but is he just playing because Ugachukwu got sent off? That's my only thing. I did wonder. Fake Clan, let me take a look. Bench 1, Gakpo would Eze. I'd probably bench Eze, just the least certain to start. There is another opportunity to play a triple captain. There's quite a lot of them. He's just never going to get an attack in return, though. Did he also get booked? Yeah. Probably not, but he's going to hit as many Defcons as Caicedo is by the looks of it. Zubimendi an option for 5-5. I'm still just not sure he'll play every week. Like we saw it with Rice. And if Rice is possible to get benched, then I'm not sure Zubimendi will play all the games. Calafiori over Gabriel and Donnarumma over Raya. I wouldn't go Calafiori. I just think Lewis Skelly will start some games. So I'm not sure I'd be doing that, no. What were people saying about that guy in the chat? Fiorentina is a cheap Caicedo, believe you. I do. The only issue with a Caicedo versus him, right, is Caicedo has the ability to make it like with the clean sheets that Chelsea get, that he gets the extra 1 quite a lot, which does help. But I don't know how much clean sheets, and I don't know what his attacking output's like. So I think I'm just going to go Stack. He's got 7 set pieces. He's playing further forward. His Defcon's all right in some games. He doesn't love to get booked. Has he had a booking yet? Yeah, he's had 1. I think Jack has had 2. Start Joao Pedro or Gyökeres. So I would probably bench Gyökeres over Joao Pedro. I think Joao Pedro will be fine. I don't think it's a huge issue if you want to bench an Arsenal defender or a Gyökeres this week if you've got better players. I don't think it's the easiest fixture. I do think Arsenal will win, but I don't think it's that easy for them. Van de Ven, Kudos. Bench Gyökeres versus Tarkowski. Gyökeres bench Stack. Tarkowski, Gyökeres bench Stack. Saka and Donnarumma versus Foden and Raya on Wildcard. Stay in the bank for Palmer. I'd go Saka. Saka, Donnarumma. That is the other reason that I have wondered about not going Raya. Is it's the 3rd Arsenal spot. Doesn't feel that valuable to use up an Arsenal spot on a goalkeeper. So going, but then if I wanted another City player, like could I go with a team that I don't want loads of investment in, i.e. a Nick Pope of Newcastle? It is why I have wondered a lot about Pope as my option. I don't have Watkins, Reinders, Kudos, or Ndai on my benching rankings. I wouldn't bench them. Normally, players, if they've got a good fixture like that and they're not included in the ranking, it's just because I would play them. And yeah, so I don't put them in because I would just definitely play them. And I only include players that I think are reasonable benching decisions, unless it's a really obvious week, in which case then some of them start to creep in. But this week it's quite difficult with some of the fixtures. So start 2, Mateta, Elliot Anderson, Dewsbury Hall. I'd bench Mateta against Liverpool. Richarlison, because I still think Solanke's been pictured back in training. So I just think at some point after the international break, it'll be a problem. But if you want to go Richarlison and then go to Joao Pedro after the break, that is definitely something you can do. Or in game week 9, you could do that. Yep. Ismail Assar, bench or start. It kind of depends on who you've got over him. I think probably I'd bench. He does look like he's back to full fitness though, but I don't think you love him. I don't think you love the play this week. Why choose Behul over Gyökeres on the benching rankings? Just a much better fixture, and he's on set pieces against a team who concede an awful lot of chances from set pieces, from corners in particular. Having hard time benching Vert. Plan before the start of the season was he plays this last game before transferring him out. Play or bring in... If you're going to sell for Semenyo next week regardless, then I'd do it to Semenyo now. If there's a chance that you go for a different mid next week, then just play him. Because with Isak out, he should play. Because he's probably also needed to play some minutes in the false 9, I imagine. Surely Pope and, say, Virgil van Dijk or Gvardiol is better than Raya and Tarkowski. I would say normally, but when you add the Defcon that you're getting from Tarkowski most weeks, I find it hard to go against him. Thoughts on having Kudos, Richarlison in a wildcard like yours and then swap for Gyökeres, etc. I think that's fine. I would just be cautious if you're on wildcard. If you're on wildcard this week, I'd be cautious of having lots of players that you think you'll need to sell in the short term. Doesn't feel like it puts you in a particularly good position to have lots of players, because you'll get to a point where you'll need the transfers for something which you don't realize you need them for at the moment. So I don't want to be using transfers on something that I've already booked in when I might need them for something else. I really think those of us on wildcard this week need to do our best to roll transfers for quite. You don't need to roll it every week. Like if you get to game week 8 and you want to make a move or two, that's fine. But then on the other side of that, generally, I think there needs to be an idea that we're rolling. We need to get to sort of game week 11 with 4 or 5 transfers. Game week 13 with 4 or 5 transfers. Pivot, then you get the free at 16. You can't afford Gabriel. Where to go instead? I'd probably go Gabriel and just downgrade something else. If you're 0.1, you could also go Saliba. 0.1 cheaper, I believe. Yep. Saliba being back is interesting. And if Gabriel rises, which he probably will do tonight, and people are going on wildcard, they could end up going Saliba over him because his Defcon is probably slightly better. Start Strand Larsen, Sarr, or Elliot Anderson. Elliot Anderson at home to Sunderland. Definitely. Who to bench? Gabriel, Senesi, Virgil van Dijk, or Tarkowski? I'd bench Gabriel. Just for 1 week. Just for 1 week. If you need to bench Gabriel away at Newcastle, I don't think it's the end of the world. If you've got Williams or Forrest, I would definitely start him, yeah. Two people in the chat. Wow. Graham Potter no longer West Ham head coach. Take Tarkowski out then. And Gabriel. Don't need them for West Ham at home. Wow. I mean, what state are West Ham going to be in on Monday night? Wow, wow, wow. Graham Potter. Sounds like he's been sacked. Breaking news. Graham Potter apparently. Why have they waited until Saturday morning when they play on Monday night? Why? What was he doing on Monday? Results and performances over the course of the second half of last season and the start of this season have not matched expectations, and the board of directors believe that a change is necessary in order to help improve the position in the Premier League table as soon as possible. Well, I wonder who it's going to be. We're all going to be buying West Ham defenders because they're going to get Nuno. Nuno to West Ham. Nuno to West Ham. Surely it's got to be Nuno. Yeah, get Diouf. Don't start Diouf this week. Don't. Put Diouf probably last on your bench this week, and then from next week, once they get Nuno, maybe you can start him. Yes, I did wildcard. Southgate. Whoa. Don't get Diouf. I'm not getting Diouf now. If they do get Nuno, though, we might be looking at one of their defenders. Who thought that the start of this season would be Ange going to Forest and Nuno... I'm completely making it up. I don't know, but it just feels like a perfect fit. And it might be that it's announced on a Saturday morning because they've been trying to negotiate with him. And they finally got it. Interesting to see who they do get. Yeah, Nuno to go to West Ham and finish above Forest. Yeah, probably. You just said no 4.5 million defender transfers. Yeah, I'm not going to be buying a West Ham defender. I mean, if I'm not going one now, I'm probably not buying one in the future. Virgil van Dijk has one less Defcon than Tarkowski, but more goal threat and a better team. It's true, but that's because Virgil van Dijk got loads in the first game. Like, he got 25 against Bournemouth. So his total number looks good, but actually, if you look at it in terms of success rate, I think he's only hit it twice. Did I miss him? Maybe he's hit it 3 times. Hang on. Where am I even? Oh, I put a max price in. Yes. Yeah, he's hit it 3 times out of 2. I do think I'm going to buy Van Dijk at some point. I probably will. I think that's my one defender transfer that I'm allowed between now and game week 16 is buying Van Dijk for either Tarkowski or Gabriel in a few weeks. Yeah, Graham Potter sacked. Maybe they'll spend the next 48 hours trying to learn how to defend a corner. Maybe. Can't imagine preparation for the game tomorrow has been great. Game on Monday even. Monday night football. Love it. Tarkowski, Reinders versus Foden, Gvardiol. So I think with the Foden thing, I don't see a world in where Foden feels a better pick than Reinders. If you want to go Foden, I have absolutely no problem with that. But I would go on top of Reinders. Reinders' value is just too good to ignore. When's the best time to use your triple captain, if not today? There's quite a few home games for Haaland from game week 13 onwards. What was the point of Potter doing the interview yesterday? Yeah, it's true. Saliba and Burn, or Gvardiol and Van Dijk, Senesi, Anderson and Richards. I mean, I think Gabriel Van Dijk is better, but it costs a lot more money. Foden in for Gakpo, Grealish, or Xavi. Have 2 transfers, so we'll save one probably. If you've got Gakpo, Grealish, Xavi, Simmons, I'm not sure I'd go to Foden. If I had to sell one, I'd probably sell Gakpo. If I'm sure that Xavi Simmons will start, would I consider him? I've got him over and die with no money in the bank. If I knew Xavi Simmons would start, I still think there's a few games where just the minutes last week plus the minutes midweek is probably enough to put me off. If I knew he'd start, would I go there? If I knew he'd start every game, would I go there? Probably. But he'd also need to play 90, which it doesn't look like he is at the moment. Would I start Munoz or Luke Shaw? God, I'd play Munoz. You're on free hit. Is it good 4-3-3 including Tarkowski? I'd probably go 3-4-3. I'd go triple City on free hit. I'd go double Bournemouth. I'd go double Everton probably. And maybe just a couple around that. But you need to bench one. Watkins, Reinders, Kudos, or Ndai. Probably Watkins. I don't think there are better windows for a triple captain. There are other windows for it, I would say. I think there are other ones, but I don't think they're better than this week. I think I'd play it if I wasn't on Wildcard. Does this change the benching ranking? No, I'd still start Dewsbury Hall if I can this week, alongside Illiman and Dye and alongside Jack Grealish. Who would I bench? Senesi, Tarkowski, Gabriel, or Van de Ven? Feels like quite a common question. I'd bench Gabriel. I think it's fine to do this week. I think it's fine. Isak and Xavi Simmons or Bruno and Gyökeres. Bruno and Gyökeres just feels so much safer. Do I reckon Donnarumma instead of Raya as a bit of a differential as City's fixtures look okay? I don't mind the Donnarumma pick. I almost went there. I think I have had him in some like temporary drafts. So yes. I like Donnarumma. I like Pope. I like Petrovic. And I like Raya. And I don't mind Sanchez now at 4.9 as well. So I think there are some good goalkeeper options if we don't want to keep Raya forever. But the short-term fixtures, I'm going with him. My YouTubers. Apologies, it is running a little bit slow. There we go. Looking at the poll, 20,000 votes, 60% on wildcard, 30% triple captain. Why not pick Pope and Donnarumma over Raya? Gabriel is there. Because I just think the Arsenal defence is the best. Yeah. Red or brown sauce on a bacon sandwich? Red, definitely. Unconventional. I've eaten my past 2 bacon sandwiches. I haven't put any sauce on them. And I know people are going to think that's weird. But sometimes you like to taste the bacon. Is Sanchez starting? Yeah, I think he will. I don't see why he wouldn't. Jorgensen was not good midweek. If I had to free up money on my draft, I'd just downgrade Richards. Yeah, Potter has been sacked. Kieran Dewsbury Hall or Chris Wood? Chris Wood. They're the 5:30 games today, aren't they? Raya and Burn or Pope and Tarkowski? Probably Raya and... No, probably Pope Tarkowski. As long as you've got Gabriel. as long as you've got Gabriel. Kudos and Burmo versus Bruno stack if you want bench boost 8. I still think I'd just keep a bit of good squad structure and go Bruno stack. Sometimes you want to taste the bacon. It feels like it should be a influential quote for something. Yeah, probably. Yeah, but I don't know what for. You got to wake up and smell the coffee. What is it? Sometimes you want to just taste the bacon. Don't know. How come no Manchester City defence with Burnley and Everton in the next 3? Yeah, I quite like a City defender, but I prefer Arsenal short term. I like Tarkowski over Gvardiol. So unfortunately, they just don't fit. But if you want to go City, I really like them. I just think the medium long term for Arsenal is slightly better. And they do leak a goal, City. They know how to leak a goal better than Arsenal do, I'd say. Sanchez or Vicario. If I was on Wildcard, I'd be more inclined to go Sanchez, probably. It's quite close, though. Sanchez is not suspended. If you've got Sanchez, he is not suspended. He served his suspension in the Cup game midweek. Start Tavernier or Dewsbury Hall. Dewsbury Hall. Caicedo over stat if I have the bench boost left. I think you can bench boost in game week 8 with stack. So no, I don't think you need to upgrade it. We have 15 minutes to go. 13 minutes to go until the deadline. The wildcard deadline. Yeah, I mean, I've still got stack in here. I still got stack. Someone saying, would I go from Tarkowski? How will I go from Tarkowski? I've got 0.6 spare, which is exact money for Tarkowski to Van Dijk. I still got stack in here. Right, let's look. Let's look at some midfielders. Let's just do the exercise. Who is there for 5 million? I'm not going to spend it all. I only want to spend 5 million. Well, I would spend 5.1, but Cullen? Three Defcons. Probably would have had 4 if he'd have played more minutes against Liverpool. His goal contributions are... He scored and got an assist against Sunderland. 5 million. Fixtures are all right. There aren't really any 4.5 mids that I think are reliable. I know King is there, but... If Cullen had hit Defcon there, would people be going... Who didn't he not... He didn't get Defcon in the game. He got a goal and an assist. Why not Garner? Because I don't want triple Everton, I don't think. I think Scott is a doubt. And he doesn't play every minute. That's not good. Adams has been, I think, not bad for it. Yeah, 19, 12, 11, 11. Not sure I want to take up a third spot. Best 6.9 million mid for 6 and 7 only. And die Kudos or Doku. Probably Kudos for the next 2. Dewsbury Hall. Lafee. I did look at Wharton, but he doesn't play enough minutes. It's stack. I'm interested by Cullen. Are there any Burnley chans in the fat? Burnley fans in the fat. Burnley fans in the chat. His Defcon is great. Probably slightly more reliable than Stack's, but Stack is on some set pieces, which feels like a bit of a boost. He also got an assist in game week 1. What points has he had? 8, 2, 3, 1, 15. I don't know. That just... I don't know. I wonder about Cullen. Are there any Burnley fans in the chat who wants to tell me something about Cullen? Is he any better than... Why did he get taken off early there? Oh, no, FPL Meerkat, I will take Haaland. I will take Haaland. I am tempted by Cullen. Put 100% in and was tired. People are saying that... Lazy FPL is saying that... let me get it up. They're saying that Haaland starts. Please, of course, take this with your own discretion. They were right pretty much every time last season. But has been wrong once before. But I see no reason why Haaland wouldn't start. If you wanted confirmation, there we go. What are people saying? Cullen is good. Interesting. I don't think I'm going to change stack now, but... maybe Cullen was the one. I want to go a bit of Burnley, a bit of Leeds in case one of them turns out to be bad. Right, we have got 9 minutes to go until the deadline. I need a branded water bottle. Maybe I should. Timber or Calafiori, if I had to pick one, I don't really like either of them. I prefer Gvardiol and Tarkowski to both of them. If I had to pick one, I'd go Timber. Raya, Gabriel, Gvardiol, or Donnarumma, Gabriel, Gvardiol. So, Raya. Because if you're going Gvardiol, Donnarumma, Gabriel, it means you're not going Reinders, Haaland, which I'm surprised by. So definitely the other one. Right, let's do some questions as we have 8 minutes to go until the deadline. Enzo or Ndai? I think Ndai, but I wouldn't be that surprised if we're changing from Ndai to Enzo in a few weeks. That's my prediction, that the early transfer is Ndai to Enzo Fernandez. Erling, Reinders, Foden, or Erling, Reinders, and Burmo. I prefer Burma over Foden, I think. Isak and Haaland, and Burma and Dye, Reinders, Bruno. I just don't think I trust Isak. He should start this weekend against Palace, but I just don't know how much I think long term I definitely trust that. So was I tempted at all for Saka? Yes, it's just Saka versus Gyökeres for me, and I just think the squad structure just looks better for a cheaper price if I go Gyökeres over Saka. But I wouldn't be surprised if Saka turns out to be better. And on game week 8, if Saka looks fit and does well in the next 2, people will probably go with Saka over Gyökeres. But Donnarumma, Gabriel, Tarkowski. Then the Donnarumma, Gabriel, Tarkowski. Bruno, Foden, and Mbeumo. Choose 2 for this week. Probably not Mbeumo. Foden and Bruno. Callum, welcome as a member. Thank you very much for joining and supporting the channel. Once you sign up, all the perks that you are available for you will be there, and any links you need will be in the description of them. Van Dijk or Tarkowski. Still think I prefer Tarkowski short term for his Defcon, but I am looking at Van Dijk as a potential transfer. Start Gabriel or Senesi. Definitely Senesi away at Leeds and his Defcon. Anything on the Spurs players? I like their defense. They attack, do share points, but I still like Kudos. I like Xavi Simons, and I don't mind Richarlison if you have some spare. transfers in case it becomes an issue. Why not on Burma over Bruno? I just think Bruno is just that consistent player in FPL that's done it for quite a long time, and I trust him to just tick along quite long term. Joao Pedro or Burma? I prefer Joao Pedro, I think, long term. Yeah, I prefer Joao Pedro. Why not Anderson over Gabriel? Maybe. I do think Villa will score at home. Yeah, basically. So I think Gabriel has a higher clean sheet chance in my mind. Gyökeres, Bruno, Tarkowski to Evanilson, Saka, Virgil van Dijk on wildcards. I mean, I'm going to say no because the three on the left are the three that are in my team. Why isn't Sanchez red flagged? Because he's not suspended. He served his suspension in the cup game midweek and only got a 1-match suspension. Is Rice a good pick? Not sure he's worth the 6.5. I think there's better options of Arsenal. If you're not going to use the Arsenal spot, then I don't mind it. Villa score. I mean, they've started scoring 1 goal. Not saying they're going to score multiple. And, it's not impossible that Gabriel could get Defcon away at Newcastle. Feels like a fixture that might be more in tune for him to get it. Best 4 million defender. If I was going to buy one, I probably would go Goodmanson or I'd go Alderette at Sunderland. I think would be my choices if I was going to buy one this week. Is Anderson a better first sub than Stack? Probably. No, I'm going to leave Stack first. 2 to start between Gakpo, Dewsbury Hall and Gyökeres. Probably bench Gakpo. Just to rattle through a few things then. So, Spurs players, I do like them. I just don't think it improves my team long enough. The Arsenal defence, I don't trust the fullbacks to get enough minutes long term when you can just buy one of the centre-backs. And when you do have Gabriel Saliba picking up the odd Defcon, it levels out pretty well. So I do think I prefer them. I don't trust Isak, despite the fact that I'm pretty sure he'll start Palace this week because of Ekitike being suspended. But I still think long-term, they will rotate minutes. Sanchez of Chelsea is available for this game, having served his 1-match suspension during the week. If you can go with if you want to go Saka over Gyökeres, I have absolutely no issue with that. I don't trust Eze's minutes, though, because I think Odegaard will come back in and play in the number 10, and I think there will then be Eze, Martinelli, and Trossard all fighting for places on the left-hand side. In terms of cheap defenders, I wouldn't go Burnley now if I was on Wildcard. I like Alderette, Mukiele of Sunderland, and I like Goodmanson and Rodon of Leeds. There is virtually nothing to pick between any of them. Pape Sarr, I've seen a few questions about him of Spurs. He is not guaranteed to start with the amount of midfielders they've got and the amount of games that they've got to play. Where else? Illiman and Dye, if you want alternatives, you can definitely go Enzo Fernandez. You can go Kudos. I would go Kudos over Xavi Simons if I was picking between them. In terms of the stack position, if you've got the money, you can also go up to in that price bracket. There is Paqueta, there's Minte, Caicedo coming down a bit, Elliot Anderson coming down a bit, Stack, Dewsbury Hall, Xhaka, Cullen, all good options. Why Raya over Donnarumma? I just think long-term Arsenal are the best defence in the league, so I've gone with their goalkeeper. This week, we do have a benching ranking. Let me put that up on screen now. If you're looking for last-minute benchings, there you go. They are up in the top right-hand corner of your screen now. If you've got a Spurs defender, I would definitely start them. And if you've got a Forest defender, I would also definitely start them. Timber or Van de Ven, I would play Van de Ven over Timber. That is all. Benching rankings in the top right. Yes, Graham Potter has been sacked. No, it doesn't impact my decision to go with double Everton this week. Why not both Saka and Gyökeres together? I just don't think it fit my structure well enough, and I like their defense more. Enzo or Kudos? Probably prefer Kudos short term. Enzo if you want to save some transfers. But we are going to go into the final 1 minute before the deadline. The timer is up, which always ends 1 minute or 30 seconds before the deadline. That is going to be all the questions that I'm going to answer in this stream. Please go and check your teams. My wildcard is locked in. Surprise, surprise. It's the same team I built. I think this is the first time it's ever happened where I have the same wildcard that I built 1 week ago when the deadline passed last week. That is where we are going to be. We went with Stack. Haaland triple captain, Semenyo vice captain. And yeah, that is where we're at. That is where we're at. Thank you everyone for joining. We are going to stick around for a little bit more, so please do stick around if you want to do some things to talk about. Yeah, let me just post my team. Let me post my team. Yeah, I wildcarded. If I was not on wildcard, I would have triple captained Haaland. Yeah. Yeah. Let me just... Cool. Right. First things first, before we go and do the fantasy challenge team, which we are going to do, I need you all to guess a Premier League player in the chat. It is the club section of this every week. Let me slow down. Someone said Nuno's already been appointed. Hang on, let me go and have a look. The deadline has passed. Did they already sign? I don't see them signing. I don't see the Nuno thing, no. I do think it will happen, but... Right, let's see. Guesses. Who am I going to get? My lineup for this weekend at the moment is Sales in goal, Chalobah, O'Brien. I've currently got Alderete in there. Anderson, Stack, Enzo Fernandez, Tonali, Wirtz, Pedro Porro, and Semenyo. It's my last contract on Wirtz, and I can finally get rid of his budget from my team. Let's have a look. Let's see the guesses. James, Marino, Livramento, Ward-Prowse, Gibbs White, Xhaka, Xavi Simons, Paqueta, Brian and Burmo, Gibbs White, Mark Gay, Tarkowski, Enzo, Moises Caicedo. Let's see who we're going to get. Okay. Rare midfielder. Wolves. Oh dear. Is it Arias? Ooh, Joao Gomez is actually quite good in this game. But Wolves have been terrible. So I'm going to reject him. Oh, I didn't even... Oh, dear. Anyway. I didn't put it big screen for you all to watch. This is my team for this weekend. If you want to join, QR code league. Make sure you download it. There are almost 2,000 of you now in that league. 1,850 of you in that league, and it is absolutely flying. It is absolutely flying. Right, let's go back. Looking very different with the ring. Right, let's have a look at the Fantasy Challenge team for this week. This is what I've gone with. It is under 23s scored double points. So, this is where we're at. The ring is a nice look on you. Thank you. It took me time to get used to it. Trust me. I've literally never worn jewelry for practically my whole life. Like, I've never been, like, I don't even wear a watch. So I've never worn a watch, never wore like a bracelet, never wore a ring, never wore a necklace or anything. So to suddenly put a ring on and wear it all the time, every day, took some adjustment. But you get used to it very quickly. Yeah, so I basically want a full team full of under 23s. Apart from there's no real forwards. This is what we've gone with. If you want to join, the league code, it is right there right now. Actually, Fantasy Challenge code is there. The main channel code is there. People saying Nuno confirmed. I don't see the Nuno confirmed. No, I didn't triple captain because I was on Wildcard and you can only play one chip. He hasn't been appointed yet, but it is. I imagine he's top of the bookies odds. West Ham manager odds. Yeah, Nuno is unbelievable favourite to get it. Is this the worst start to my season in FPL? Probably. It's reported in The Guardian. Yeah. Oh. Breaking. Nuno Espirito Santos agreed he could be in charge as soon as Everton on Monday night. Wow. By Ben Jacobs, TalkSport. Was so obvious. So obvious. That's probably why it's taken this long for them to do it. Is because they were probably agreeing a term with Nuno and they basically were just waiting for that to happen. Wow. If you have a similar team to me, I think bench boost, 7 might even work quite well. I'd have to check. I don't have it, so. Does triple captain Haaland scare you out of interest? Alf, I hope you're doing well. I was sorry to see you lost your Twitter. I haven't actually checked to see if you've got it back yet. But yes, it does a little bit. It does. But Alf, I hope all is good. And I hope it is just a short term. I saw in your video you said it was a just like you could still read and stuff. So hopefully they hope they give it back is what I understood, but maybe I got it wrong. But yeah, that is a nightmare, and hopefully they sort it out for you. A lot of Premier League managers are breathing easier now Nuno has a job. First time you have the same team on Wildcard as Ross. The thing with the Wildcard this week is so many players pick themselves. There's no way you were going without Reinders, Semenyo, and I'm going to put Bruno in there because without Palmer, with Saka just coming back, Foden being a slight minutes risk. I just think Bruno picks himself. Joao Pedro does as well, and I started the season with him. Senesi does. The Defcon defenders do. An Arsenal defender does. If you wanted to change and die, that's fine. If you wanted to go Saka over Gyökeres, that's fine. But I just think so much of it picked itself. There aren't really that many good options, as Will is saying. The hate on Mo, it's absolutely nothing because I'm hating on Mo. It's because I don't think he's worth the money on top of Haaland. Enzo Fernandez, I actually think Enzo Fernandez will be further forward if Palmer is out. Really wanted to go Foden, but couldn't get him in. We'll look again in 13. The Foden train is always just a few weeks though. By game week 13 it will be someone else in that spot, but yeah, we can wait and see. Foden over Fernandes for a punt to hold money to see what happens, I think is fine. Bruno will probably blank and get booked and get 11 Defcon today. It's probably how it works. Is it too early to go on the template? It's likely to develop further over the next few weeks. So this team will be like still very low owned as a combination of all the players. 5% of the game played Wildcard this week. So Lalari, I saw your message. What did you do in the end? Start Saar over Gravenberch. The deadline has passed. So apparently, someone said in the chat earlier that the new Man United goalkeeper was probably going to start. Yeah, Potter sacked. How important will team value be going forward? I think that's an interesting one. Because at the moment, it doesn't feel that worthwhile. But at some point, there'll be a player who's expensive that we all want, and then team value is important. You started Van de Ven over Senesi. Was that a good idea? I would start Van de Ven if you had him. I probably wouldn't have benched Senesi, though. Oh, Saar or Gravenberch. Is that Pap Saar or Ismail Saar? Traps. Do I think it was the right choice to play Gakpo instead of Ndai this week? You confer. I probably would have played Ndai, but it's all right. Confirmed your team 30 seconds after 11. Will it be okay? It just says the game is now updating. You might get lucky, but if it's 30 seconds after the deadline, you might not. Ismail Assar, I probably would have gone with Gravenberch, but yeah. 120 seconds for team news. Oh, it's already team news time. Let's have a look. Right, Man United. We still got a couple of minutes. 1 minute, sorry. You're going to the City-Liverpool game. You're very lucky. Enjoy that. You started Alderette over Saliba. To be honest, I don't think that's that bad a thing this week. If it was next week. Does double Tottenham defence look scary? I like the Spurs defence this week. Wolves have not looked good. Getting my W teams confirmed the wrong way around. Achapong for 4 million. He should start, but I wouldn't go buying him. What's wrong with my deadline timer? Deadline has passed 15 minutes ago. Doesn't Chalobah? I quite liked Chalobah. I just not sure now he's up at 5.2. Here's the Man United team. And Burmo, Cunha, Sesko, Bruno in midfield with Ugarte, Shaw and Dorgu fullbacks, with Dalot, De Ligt, Maguire centre-backs. So Bruno centre-mid, Bayindir is in goal. Lehmann is on the bench. And the other one is Brentford. Brentford's team... They haven't posted it yet. Oh, yes, here they have. And it's a really confusing... Oh, no, it's not. Kelleher, Coyote, Vandenberg, Collins, Hickey, Henderson, Yarmulke, Damsgaard, Dango, Kevin Schade, Thiago. Oh, is Dalot playing? Did I read Dalot? Oh, sorry, yeah. Sorry, I got Dalot confused with De Ligt, but he's also in the lineup. Dalot, wing back. Ahmad on the bench. Why no triple captain? Because I played my wildcard, so I can't play 2 chips. I remember you saying you triple captain midfielder over Haaland, but you're not planning on buying Mo anytime soon. I might buy Salah in 13. I might buy Salah for some of those fixtures before AFCON. If not, I'll just triple captain Haaland. I don't mind triple captaining a forward. I just think a midfielder always has that higher ceiling. Oh, Ahmad's not even in the squad. Fine. Due to family reasons. Fair enough. I hope all is okay with him. Oh, he's out. He's not even on the bench. Diouf could become great. He could, yeah. Estefal's minutes locked in. He should start, yeah. When would I play? Would I have triple captain Haaland? Yes. If I wasn't on wildcard, I would have triple captain Haaland. Cool. Anything more? Anything more? I think we're going to wrap it up there. Do I make the right choice going with Charleston and transferring Gyökeres in next week as a 1 week punt? If you've got 5 transfers, I think that's fine. Would I do Donnarumma and Elliott, Anderson, or Petrovic and die? Probably Petrovic. Why don't I start streaming Twitch? People will be surprised, but my content takes a lot of time to make, and I edit everything myself and do all the graphics. So I don't really have time to consistently. I would absolutely love to. If one day I had an editor, then maybe, but yeah. I'll have 2 transfers going into game week 7, and I'll almost certainly roll my transfer. when do we see you next? The video will be up on Sunday evening, and we will have a stream next weekend, of course. And then it's the international break again. So that is all. I think we're going to wrap up the stream there. It is, what time is it? 20 past. I'm going to go and have a little something to eat, have a coffee. And it is my sister-in-law's birthday weekend, so I need to go and wrap her present, which I have left to the last minute. You will be shocked to hear. And then probably watch the United game before heading off to Chelsea. Anyone going to Chelsea, enjoy. Fingers crossed Joao Pedro gets some points. Have a lovely weekend, everyone. Thank you all very much for joining. And yeah, I'll catch you all very soon.